This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ, or iglesianicristo.
Welcome to INCRadio, South Central States Satellite Studio. I think you accidentally muted our. Did you mute the Google Meets?
How do I mute?
Just find the YouTube and yeah, there we go. All right. Welcome to INC. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Welcome to INCRadio, South Central States Satellite Studio. A little wake-up call we get here. We thank you for joining us here this morning. Today, we are going to talk about careers. This is one of my favorite kind of shows to do, is to cover the career journeys that people take. It's kind of a way for the youth to understand that, it's not really always a clear-cut way in having a successful career. And joining me today, I have Rico Navarro of Oklahoma City. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Rico, coming live from Oklahoma City. And just thank you, Nathaniel, for bringing me on and being able to just talk about my career in the Navy.
Awesome. So we have our question of the day, which is dropped into the chat. So go ahead and answer that. And that is, when you were young, what did you want to be when you, quote unquote, were going to grow up? Okay. I think when I was growing up, I probably wanted to be a scientist at first because I was kind of into that. What about you, Arnie?
So I wanted to be a lawyer when I was younger, but my parents said that was not a honest career. He goes, and if you defend criminals, they're gonna come after you and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. But to this day, I still regret it. I wish I went into law.
What about you, Rico? When you were growing up, when you were a little kid, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a banker.
That's
Because our parents, my grandparents, they would always go into the bank, and back then they would just withdraw money for everything. So I would go with them, and I would see what they would do back there, and I would be like, "Oh, I want to come work at the bank."
I get
one
that.
day, so
I remember when they were building our house, I saw them like putting it all together, and I was always impressed. Like, oh, the house went from nothing to a full house. I want to be a construction worker. Of course, that changed, once you realize that construction work isn't the easiest. But we're gonna jump into the question not the question of the day, our thinking cap questions. There we go. Yeah, go ahead and take it over.
So we'll go ahead and ask our first question, and the first question is: who has the second largest air force in the world? Is it A, Russia, B, China, C, United Kingdom, or D, United States? Who has the second largest air force in the world? A, Russia, B, China, C, United Kingdom, and D, United States.
Yep. Put your answer down. Be sure you only put down the letter. It makes it easier. So make sure you put down the letter A, B, C, or D.
sorry.
Rico's still participating. He's on the leaderboard. So just so you know that when we calculate the scores, so I have to just run through and be like, all right, filter, did they pick letter A, B, C, or D? Which one? And it makes it easier for you. So if you include anything else, I try to include everyone's answers if they have anything else. Like Rico in the chat, you put down Russia. So sometimes I catch it, sometimes I don't. But the guaranteed way that I will get your answers, you just put down the letter.
And don't forget, you only get one answer. So if you answer A and then you change it to B and then you change it to C and then you change it to D,
Yeah.
we're only taking A. So only one chance. You don't get to put all four.
All of the above.
All right. Let's get started. So career journeys. So let's start off with school. So what were kind of your strengths when you're growing up in school?
I could say my strength was probably composition and reading. I was always able to just write fairly well, and I just enjoyed it. I guess it was just easier for me to just write and read. That
What
was
about
more
like
of my strong suit.
what about like athletics? Because I know like in the military, there's a lot of physical requirements. In school, were you very athletic?
No, not as much as I wanted to be. I don't think I was athletic or started to know how to play a sport till I was probably 13, 14,
What
which was
sport was that?
basketball.
Basketball. Okay.
Yeah, and then at that I had to learn how to play. So not too much of the athletic as I was uh, in school or in high school.
So in high school though, was this when you started thinking about joining the military, or did you kind of have different career plans while you were still in school?
No, I had different career plans. Like when I mentioned I wanted to be a banker, I still wanted to, I still wanted to do that. And then when we first got our first computer, when you first got your first computer, and then I wanted to be in business. And so I think maybe my sophomore year, I wanted to be in business and do a business career and do that after high school.
Okay. So you graduate high school. I know that's when a lot of changes can kind of happen. And also in the live chat, if you want to share your own stories about the military, feel free to do so. But all right, you finish high school. Now what? What next?
So I finished high school and I ended up going to school for business information systems.
Okay. So you went
And
straight to
then
college?
went straight to college, did that for 2 years, and then I ended up working for two banks, different banks. And so very fortunate that I was able to at least work for a bank for a couple of years. And then honestly, I got bored of working at the bank and I ended up joining the Navy.
Okay. So that's kind of like when I was thinking about joining the military, it was working for a loan servicer. So kind of similar to a bank. And
Mhm.
just, I mean, what kind of feeling did you have? You like, what made you want to make that career change?
The story behind that was my brother was in the military. He was had enlisted. I was taking him to all his meetings that he had to do, and I ended up just being curious, signed up, got accepted in the Navy, and I just went from there.
Okay. So it was mostly just trying to follow in your brother's footsteps then.
Yeah, probably. And at the same time, I was ready for something different at that time, and so I enlisted in the Navy.
And I was thinking at the time, just when I was trying to join up, I didn't, by the way, but I mean, I did apply for officer school. Did you apply for officer school, or did you go the enlisted route?
I went through the enlisted route.
Enlisted
the
route.
enlisted
Okay.
route.
Can you briefly explain the difference between the two for those who may not understand?
So the enlisted route is um, to keep it simple is how do I explain that? It's just uh,
It's like what most people think about when they think about joining the military, isn't it?
Yeah, to me, the enlisted route is if you're trying to join and you don't have a degree, and then the officer route, you have to have a degree to become an officer when you initially join from the beginning.
Right.
So really, that's the big difference. If you don't have a degree and you want to be an officer, you won't be able to. You'd have to join the enlisted route. If you have one, then you can apply and become an officer due to whatever degree that you have.
And the officer, they're typically, the leadership roles, correct?
Yes, yes, they are typically the leadership role.
Okay. All right. So you go enlisted into the Navy. Of course, there's where did you go to boot camp?
So boot camp at that time was in Great Lakes, Chicago.
Okay. Was it cold?
When I joined, it was August, so it was really hot, and then it got really cold soon after that. So I got the best of both worlds during my boot camp.
And I'm curious, like I know when I was trying to sign up, like they have like a whole bunch of jobs, MOSs. Is that correct? Is that the same for the Navy, MOS?
So for the Navy, they call them ratings. So you
Ratings,
have
okay.
you have different job ratings you can choose from, or if you qualify for it, you can choose from those different ratings.
So what rating did you select when you went into the military?
So they had a program which was undesignated rating, where you didn't have a job at designated to you. You join, and then once you got to your first duty station, you were able to do the different jobs, and then you would be able to choose one. So I ended up choosing aviation fuels, which I think was I had the most I don't know, I had the most fun doing it, and it just stuck to me. I was able to grasp it, and it yeah, I mean it took me. I was able to retire from it. And, I was doing that for about 20 something years. So it was good that I chose that, because it then I ended up doing it for those 20 years and ended up liking it and making a career out of it.
What was the official title of that rating?
So it was aviation fuels, aviation boatswain's mate fuels.
Okay. Yeah, I know fuels can be kind of dangerous to handle. Aviation fuel. It's not like regular gasoline, is it?
Yes, it is not like regular gasoline. It is very, very volatile, and a lot of restrictions, and a lot of just a lot to make sure you were doing everything right on a daily basis.
Right.
So
we got a lot of questions in the live chat, don't we, Arnie?
We do. And, Mark Hargis actually says he remembers joining the Navy was the best choice he had. And but he doesn't miss the stress of it all. And he's very thankful for it. But Melanie does have a question, and she wanted to know, do you still keep in touch with your friends that you made in the Navy?
yes, we still keep in touch. From my first duty station all the way till now. So I keep in touch with everybody, and which is good, because then we're all in different places now. Some of them are also retired, some of them are still active, and we kind of keep up with each other and kind of just help each other out. Like, hey, I'm already retired. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. So yeah, I still keep up with them.
That's good, because I think like I don't keep up with anybody that I used to work with, and I feel like that's kind of like a difference between like civilian like work and when you're in the military. From when I talk to a lot of my military friends, they tell me that like they're I guess it's like better bonds that they form
Yes.
with those that they serve with. And I used to work in a military contractor. So, it's on the private side, but a lot of those that I work with, my coworkers, were military, and those were some of the best like coworkers I ever worked with. Did you kind of worked in both worlds also? Do you kind of notice that also?
Yes, yes. So I'm a contractor now. Since I've retired, I'm a contractor now. So most of the my coworkers are all retired Air Force, Army, and Navy. So
We have one more question because, on every show we have to talk about food. And so they were asking, what was the food like? Because they hear it was food in the military is different. So what was the food like in the Navy?
the food was very different, but um, it was okay. All right. But to me, it was you make the best of what you have. So, um, we would have obviously breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then sometimes we would have, um, uh, and it was all buffet style, so to speak. You're able to choose as much as you want when you would go through the line, so to speak.
Was it
But
good? Was it any good?
sometimes it was. Sometimes I think the best meal in the Navy was always breakfast because you can't go wrong with eggs and bacon and pancakes. You just
as long as
can't.
they're real.
Yes, you can't go wrong with that. And they never did, and that was the best time was breakfast. I could say that breakfast was the best time. So
All right, let's go to our thinking cap question, our second one.
Okay, so our second question is, which of the following is the flight demonstration squadron of the U.S. Navy? Is it E, the Thunderbirds, F, the Blue Angels, G, the Golden Knights, or H, the Red Arrows? So which of the following is the flight demonstration squadron of the U.S. Navy? E, Thunderbirds, F, the Blue Angels, G, the Golden Knights, and H, the Red Arrows. So we can go ahead and put your answers there. And I remember when I lived in San Diego, we could see some of them like flying overhead, practicing and stuff. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yep. That was the same when I was in Pensacola, when I lived around there. That this particular this particular flight demonstration team would practice every Wednesday. So every Wednesday you would actually see them flying around.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the other thing I do remember about San Diego is at Camp Pendleton, where the Navy SEALs, where they would practice like coming down like the helicopters.
Oh, okay.
And then it looked like a hovercraft type of thing that they had. I thought that was really neat. And so sometimes I get distracted when I'm driving down the freeway because they're out there, jumping out of helicopters and stuff. And I thought that was the coolest thing. But the Navy SEAL is totally different from the Navy, right? Rico?
yes, completely different. They still go through boot camp, regular Navy boot camp, and then after that, they have their own SEAL training after that, which is buds. So yeah, that was a whole different side of the Navy.
Did you ever consider that going into the SEAL team?
No, not after I saw what they did and the training. I mean, it's a lot, and I just knew that I I'm just not built for that. So, and some people are.
Yeah, I
So,
know when I was applying for the Air Force, they whatchamacallit, they always push you into joining one of their special forces. Believe it or not, the Air Force has special forces, and their training is on par with being as intense as the Navy SEALs. They do the rescue, the Air Force Special Forces.
And just a reminder, these are different letters. It's not A, B, C, D again. It's E, F, G, and H now. Okay.
Yeah. Were we seeing that in the
Somebody's
comments?
still putting like, A, B, C, or D. So just remember E, F, G, and H, only because we have to differentiate the different questions so that we get the different answers so we know who got it right for the prize. Because, we don't want to, we want to make sure we give the prize to whoever deserves it, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right. So there's when you join up and after boot camp, you go to schools, right? Did you go to schools for the fuel
Yeah,
rating?
so they have their A school and C school, and both of those schools were in Pensacola.
Okay.
So after boot camp, I went to do my initial A school, which is your initial just learning the rate, learning the different equipment that you're going to use and the maintenance that you have to do. And then they also teach you additional basic things you need to learn as you're going to your next duty station. And then the C school is just more advanced, as I believe as you made rank as a E5, E6, as you were making moving up in the ranks. I attended C school in Florida as well.
And so, what do these schools run for? Like a year or so?
No, the A school was only three weeks, and then the C school was about a month and a half, almost 2 months.
Okay, so they're very much to the point when you go to these schools.
Yes, to the point. Very they just didn't mess around. You went in there every day and it was either learning new things, and then each school had their own equipment that you could practice on. They had different buildings where you could simulate the different uh, different equipment that we had. And then the C school was more of a maintenance school where you learn how to fix the equipment, troubleshoot, and along things along lines of that.
Okay. I think some people might actually appreciate that more if they went to school and everything was to the point. Like this trains directly into the job that you're going to be doing.
Yes, it was to the point, and then and the C school was intense because you had a test at the end of each week. So if you didn't pass, they'd tell you like, hey, you need you can't fail these next couple weeks, because then you would go back. They'd kick you out of the course, and then they'd tell your command and tell them, hey, he wasn't able to complete this course because he failed these many tests. So yeah, there's no room to not pay attention, or to not take it, or you can't take it for granted.
Most people tend to pass their schools though, don't they?
Sometimes they would, and because Florida, if you've never been to Florida and then you go to Pensacola's a nice place, and sometimes people just they were able to get to that school, but some of them didn't really pay attention to their courses and then end up failing and having to go back. But not too many. But for the most part, for those that did go, they were career driven and wanted to help their careers and their knowledge to help them move forward in their career.
So I have a question for you. Like, before you joined the military, did you always have short hair? Because we got a comment saying you can tell the military guys just by their haircuts. So were you the type that always had short hair, or did you have like the long hair and you had to make it short because of the military?
No, I had the long hair, and right before I left, I buzzed I cut my hair all the way down. And then throughout my career, if those that are on, even when that know me, my hair was always shaved down. And I would always get like a buzz cut, so to speak, like a zero, a one on top, a zero on the side. And I had that all throughout my career up until I retired in April. And I retired in April, and I told my wife Leanne, like, I'm growing my hair out. So,
This is grown out.
oh yeah, this is, so
I had friends tell me that before boot camp, they would go ahead and shave their heads, but when they would arrive, they would still shave it no matter what.
yes, they did. They did. No matter what, they still shaved it down.
They're probably paid per head to cut, so they'll make sure.
Yeah.
And we have one more question from Renz. He wants to know, since you were in the Navy, was there always seafood?
That there was only seafood. Well,
When
there
you
was
see
always
it's food?
seafood.
Yeah, you would think. Did people tend to go fishing off the ships? Did anyone do that, or is that not allowed? Or
No, we would. They would. They'd go fishing. It's just, they would do it maybe later on in the evening when there was really nothing going on. So they would go fishing on the back end of the ship, the stern part of the ship. They'd go fishing.
and I know that like every military branch, they have like physical PT requirements. What does PT stands for? Physical training.
Physical training.
Yeah. So and to
Navy.
stay in, like every year, you have to take a test, right?
Yeah, it's for the Navy. It's the PFA, which is physical fitness assessment. It's twice a year now.
Twice a year. Okay.
Yes.
Man, see, all these military branches, they're all different. So
Yes.
when I was trying to get in the Air Force, it was a 1.5 mile run that you had to do, I think, in 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. What about for the Navy?
So it's a 1.5 mile run, and depending on your age, so they had age groups. So I don't know, from 18 to 29, you had to run a 1.5 miles in like 9 minutes, and then it would follow. As you got older, the 1.5 miles time you had more and more time to run the 1.5 miles.
Makes sense.
So yeah, and then they changed, as I believe my 10th year in the Navy, you could run, and then you could use the actual bike. You can bike a 1.5 miles, use a bike or elliptical, or you can swim now. So, but once they told us we could start using the bike, I went to the bike. It was just a lot easier.
I have a question because I know when my cousin, he tried to join the Air Force and he wanted to be a pilot, and he had to have 20/20 vision. Was that something that was required in the Navy?
I believe so. You'd have to have 20/20 vision
For the pilot, right?
for the pilot. And that was, I would say maybe that was. I mean, I joined in 2004. I don't know. I think that may have changed because I see a lot of pilots that wear glasses. So I'm like, and I'm like, so I don't know. Maybe it had changed, or and and probably as they got older, their eyesight didn't get better. So I think maybe that was it. But lately, I see a lot wearing glasses. So,
And you would think like
could have
being
changed.
a pilot, you're like, oh, I just sit down and I just fly this plane. But the physical requirements to be a pilot are actually much higher than just your regular enlisted. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So if
lot
you're
more.
wanting to be a pilot in the military, make sure you are in tip top shape. And then do they also assign? I think they assign them a particular plane after they finish pilot school. So you'll see some.
Yes.
They have videos of like those show
Mhm.
like, oh, you get a fighter plane, and the guy's like, yeah, I got a fighter plane, and then another guy they're like, oh, you got this big cargo plane, and they're not as excited.
But I do have an interesting fact from Mark Hargis. He says that the Navy has more airplanes than the Air Force. Is that true?
I think the Air Force has a lot more planes because that's the Air Force. The Air Force has a lot more planes, and I think they do.
But the fighter
I think
pilots, aren't they Navy? Like the
they're
ones that come off
Navy.
Yeah,
the aircraft
the Navy does
carriers?
have
Yes.
planes too. Yeah.
Yes, off the aircraft carrier.
See,
Yes,
so
those
maybe
are
the Navy does have more.
Well, you are in Oklahoma City. So how does the Navy, which is associated with water, end up in Oklahoma City?
So the Navy has two squadrons out here
Hmm.
at Tinker. So they have two squadrons out here, and that's where I ended up choosing for my duty station in 2017. And that's when we got here. It was 2017. And so I chose that duty station because there was nothing else for me at that time. So I chose that duty station here in Oklahoma in 2017. So
What other difficulties did you face while in the military?
um one difficulty would be adjusting to the tempo of the job. So obviously, we do a job to make sure the bigger operations or mission gets done. And so it was very demanding. Those missions, those operations were 24/7. And so it was just a constant go, 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 go. I mean, maybe the only time we would end up taking time to yourself was to go eat. Your lunch, dinner, and then after that you were right back at it. And then just learning all the different um, um, the culture that the Navy has. It's different from being a civilian, obviously. So just learning that, getting acclimated with that, and being able to uh, to shut that off when you would come home. So that
Right.
was the biggest difficulty, right? Is just, hey, I'm home now and I'm not at work in the military. So I always tried my best to not take the military home and when I to the family. So I think that was my biggest difficulty is being able to just not bring the military home as much. So
And with like civilian work, it can very much be just 9 to 5. Is the military more of like a 24/7, 365 type of job?
uh, it was back then when I joined 2004. It was a 24-hour, and I would work 19, 20-hour days, and then it's changed since then. Now they have to work 8 hours. At 8 hours they have to get 8 hours of rest, 8 to 9 hours of rest. So now they give you the allotted time of rest that your body needs.
Right.
So
So, Leanne made a comment and she's all like, why are we moving to Oklahoma? You're in the Navy. There's no sea or ships in Oklahoma.
see, I was hoping she wasn't gonna mention that. And
And
I had no answer for her. I was like,
Well, here too in Fort Worth, JRB, the base they have here, joint base. There's also a Navy aspect to it, but I think this because they make the plane here for the Navy,
yeah.
so
So
they just have a base
so
here also.
so to answer Leanne's question, the Navy has a sea duty tours and shore duty tour. So this was my coming to Oklahoma was my shore duty tour. So,
Yeah,
but
just 12 hours from the shore.
yeah, 12 hours from the shore.
and she had mentioned something about you swimming in the ocean. What was that like?
So we did a swim call when we would go out to sea. We do a swim call, and that was very interesting. It was organized by the ship, and we would uh, anchor, and we would jump into the ocean, and then you would just have to swim back onto the ship. And yeah, it was very, very interesting. It was very fun. Now I'm not gonna tell you that I made it back to the ship, you know, maybe halfway, since someone had to come get me. But yeah, it was fun. It's you know, it was-
But what if you don't know how to swim?
then they highly suggested you not to do it. Because you know they had you know the search and rescue swimmers out there just in case. So um, and if you didn't know how to swim, you just was watching really. So I did it. I made it a certain you know I did a good amount of it, and so let's just say I had to really rely on my backstroke after trying to get back.
Let's go to our third thinking cap question.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we have another one. Okay, so which of the following U.S. presidents did not serve in the U.S. Navy? Was it I, John F. Kennedy, J, Lyndon B. Johnson, K, George H.W. Bush, and L, Ronald Reagan? So when we're saying George, which one is this? Is this a dad or is this the son?
HW is the dad.
Oh, HW is
dad.
the dad. So
Yeah.
I just know they're both George Bushes, so I didn't know which is which. So once again, which of the following U.S. president did not serve in the U.S. Navy? I, JFK, John F. Kennedy, J, Lyndon B. Johnson, K, George H.W. Bush, and L, Ronald Reagan. Go ahead and type in your answers. See, this one I know
All right.
because I'm all about the presidents.
I think I remember. I wrote these. I think I remember most of them. It'd be pretty bad if I fail at my own game.
I just know these because I tend to visit presidential libraries when I go to different states.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you learn about the history and all that stuff.
And we
one of the different
discussed like, what if
presidents.
there's a tie?
Yes.
So we decided if there's a tie, we'll just whoever's the top, we'll just buy you all the mug.
Yeah, we
Which
won't
is
pick
right
just
here.
we won't pick just one. You guys will actually be able to
Oh,
you guys will
nice
be able
mug.
to
Yeah, we'll
question
find
3.
out next week.
Yeah. So there we go. This way. Yeah. And we'll get it for everyone who wins.
Yeah, let's actually show the leaderboard now.
Oh yeah, let's go look at our leaderboard. So
Who's at the top?
right now, Jerry is at top with Martha Net. And then after that is Brian, Mark, Mylene, Romy, and then we still have a lot more people on there. But yeah.
Yep.
But just keep tuning in because we're going to start again in November. We're going to have different questions and then do different prizes for November also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because, you know, if you don't want a mug, maybe you want a cup or something like this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, depends on what we feel like, I guess.
All right. So I guess to close us out, for those who are thinking about the military, because it is a very serious job to take up, to call it a job, because it's not something you can necessarily quit. There's a thing called a dishonorable discharge if you just like leave, and that kind of is like a bad mark on your name. Makes it very difficult to find a job on the outside. But what advice would you give to the youth if they are considering a career in the military?
I would tell them, I'm gonna be very honest. They I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't tell them to join. I wouldn't let them. I would tell them you need to consider something else because it's very demanding and uh just with my experiences, I wouldn't recommend joining the military, which is ironic, right? Because I did 20 years, and you know I had different goals at that time for me and my family. But if you absolutely have to, because it's because you need to provide for a family or for yourself, whatever it may be, then go ahead. But if you don't have to, I would. I wouldn't join the military, which is weird, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, I totally understand you because it was the same when I was wanting to join. Everyone said don't, and what ends up happening is like only if you are really committed and you know exactly what you're getting into, and like you said, you're just brutally honest, like this is what you're going to sign up for, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're in and then you regret it, because you'll be there for several years before you're able to get out. So that is real solid advice, because this is a very serious choice that you would have to make.
Yeah, and Jerry said the Navy stands for never again volunteer yourself. So that goes true to his recommendation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yes, I want to give a shout out to my family, Leanne, Michaela, and Jacob, and my mom and dad in Long Beach, California, my Auntie P, my mother-in-law, my brother and sister, and the local of Oklahoma City.
Awesome.
And we do have greetings here where they do want to greet all of those either active military or retired, to thanking them for their service.
Yes, absolutely. And I know a lot of those who watch here are also in the military. Thank you for your service. And for those considering the military, yeah, we're not going to lie to you about what you're really getting into. So only if you're really, really serious should you join. So, which is kind of why we're doing this here. Because honestly, if you really want to join, then us telling you not to is not going to stop you. That's the reality.
Yes.
And that's how it should be.
BJ said, join the army of God.
Because he's a minister. That's our minister, Brother Byron, Brother BJ, down in Baton Rouge. So I also know there's a bit of a rivalry between. Were they poking at each other in the comments?
No, it was. I was pretty surprised. They were not. They were just
well behaved.
They were well behaved, and they did make comments. And there was one more fact before we go. What Mark said, where the Navy has more planes, right, than the Air Force, but the Army has more ships than the Navy.
Oh, real quick, the answers. Oh yeah, we need to bring up the answers. So the first question, it's actually the United States has the second largest Air Force.
Who's got the biggest Air Force?
The United States also.
Oh, but they got the second one too?
Because like Brother Mark said, there's planes in the Navy. So the Navy has its own Air Force. The Army has its own Air Force.
Okay.
So it's kind of a trick question.
Okay.
Try to trip everyone up. And then the next
Number
one
two?
is the Blue Angels, of course. And then
Number
the
three?
last one was Ronald Reagan.
Yes, because he was an
Yes.
actor. He was not a military guy.
I think he did do military. I think it was Army or Air Force. I think it was Army. So it wasn't the Navy. But we'd like to thank our CFO coordinator and SEPC president, Brother Angelo Arano Manalo, and of course, our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, who's going to be celebrating his birthday. So happy birthday. And we also have a special shout out for the 10th anniversary of INCradio International, which we are a part of. So we thank you for joining this morning. We'll see you next week, and we'll see the results of that thinking cap.
This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.